Yup, it's the Vortex, and I'm just going to do another video talking about the painting practice at the minute, general art practice, and show a few pictures, a few paintings, and just talk about work basically. Just talk about what I've been exploring, what different mediums I've been using recently, what I see developing in my work, or what I see. And at the minute, it's sort of in a. I've not got a canvas at the minute, so I'm just working on paper mostly, just doing quite quick. Generally speaking, from observation, but also from imagination, and mixing that up a bit basically, and also working with just like not being too precious about the materials or the. So basically, it's like a sort of the sketching phase, right? I'm developing a lot of imagery, storing up getting a lot of stuff out from my subconscious and unconscious, which is always a good thing to do in art, just to access those levels of yourself. You could talk about the superego, ego, id. That's a Freudian concept, which these days isn't necessarily the latest theory, but even Jung talked about the collective unconscious, or and also we have our own, so trying to connect to my own subconscious drives, and also the bigger thing, the collective unconscious as well. So I'll do a little tour of my studio / living, my studio where I live and where I also paint. I'll show you a few of the pieces I've been working on, and just talk stream of consciousness about each one basically. That's going to be the video. Like and subscribe if you like art content, me talking about my own art, me talking about other people's art, about I want to do more book reviews now, so if you have a piece of writing that you want me to review, then let me know. I might go into like visual art. I wouldn't say criticism, but just more like thoughts. So if you've got a piece of artwork maybe you want me to look at, it's not going to be art criticism. I don't do that. I'm not interested in that, but I can just say, just on a basic level, like this is what this makes me think of. This is what you might want to explore, basically. But anyway, without further ado, let's go and explore my walls. So, well, this is my room in general at the minute. I've actually given it a bit of a tidy today. It's a bit more organised than it was possibly before. And, my easel, I'm not using that till I've got some canvas again, which requires money, of course. So my computer and setting up the printer. But anyway, I'm going to talk specifically about just my work and what I see developing, and I'm going to go piece by piece, take it quite slowly, and that's probably the best way to do it. Work is mostly from this year. Some of it's from my previous time in Moscow, so it will be, and a lot of what I'm doing actually at the minute is a development of the phase I was in Moscow, where I was working mostly pen and pencil and paper. So I've continued to work in mostly black on white. I've been introducing some colour again. You can see there's one there which is in colour, just basically a paint sketch. But yeah, it's mostly, my artwork at the minute is mostly black on white. I want to explore just using that again. I like doing black paintings. I think it can be interesting, even though it's negative space, because you have to think about how the light, if you will, comes through in the painting. Anyway, that said, let's look at the work. Hey, so I'm not going to give titles for each piece. Not all of them have got titles. This one on the left, so this is actually a piece from Russia, so you can see there, 2021, it's from last year. We have a figure here. It's done in a very frenzied, expressionistic style. This figure almost has like a mask-like face, sort of, almost looks like a Joker sort of figure. It's quite disturbing on some levels. We have a bit of, I'd say automatism, but also Lovecraftian sort of creatures here. Don't know specifically what's going on there. Obviously, straight from the unconscious, just working natural. That's exactly how I did this one. So this is during my time in Russia. I was probably feeling a bit detached, a little bit lost. I was a bit lonely the last year being in Russia, to be honest. So I think it probably represents this metaphor for depression on some level. I'll just move along linearly, actually. Why not? This is from when I arrived in Scotland, actually. It's a sort of, well, there's breasts there, so there's sex in it. There's also this figure who's almost like a robotic demon of some sort. So we've got some, a woman there with big boobies, and she's got knickers on, and this robot who's almost clenching his hands like an evil sort of mastermind, I guess. So potentially what I see just intuitively, what I intuit from that image is there's a painting about sex, obviously sexuality, but also could be about robots. So sort of control thing. Suggestion of the hands would suggest that. There's an urban suggestion here with the cities. This is just after I left London for a while, so maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know exactly. It's also a dream image. This painting, one of the first ones I did when I came to Scotland, and it's quite interesting actually. I really want to explore this sort of compositional style a little bit more. You can see the figure maybe in the sort of top centre. Wants to figure out a window, or it could be a computer screen. And then there's like a sort of secondary level of perspective wise of a sort of humanoid face. This is something I want to explore a great deal more, illusional space. And just how I can take that a bit further, the brush strokes. I like the brush strokes of it. Generally, I might have sold this piece as well actually, so that's good. So I think I've sold this piece. So I'm going to be prepping it for the new owner. He's an artist himself actually. Quite a recent one. I've been playing with Indian ink, so this is a very quick sketch. Female figure again, boobs, moon-like head, and a sort of landscape around her. It's a bit half finished, but it's just quick impressions. Get used to Indian ink, and yeah. I think it's probably quite interesting just to quickly look at this. So I have therapy, and I started doing a mind map. With the starting phrase was brilliant, so I had to start with that and then node off. So obviously, as you can see, there's a lot going on in my head. Some work I'm just doing with a therapist, which will help in general, probably identifying and sort of tapping into more creative energy, basically. Because the more you externalise with a mind map, the better you can understand what's going on in your own head, which is good. Another Indian ink sketch. Don't know what to think about this one so far. Bit too overworked, I think. There's an eye, obviously, and some ladder. One from Moscow, actually. Another one. So you've got this like sort of eye. I did this one as a live video. You've got a sort of top-down view of a pyramid, viewed from above. So there's a bit of occult imagery in there. Probably to do with, so it's abstract, obviously, but there's an egg-like shape in a sort of maybe. I think probably to do with perception on some level, sort of comes through. Another of the improvisational pieces again. Too overworked, I feel at the minute, that one. This was a proper, just like pure frustration painting. I just kept it because I thought it's funny. It just says, "Fuck, computers drive me fucking nuts." So I was obviously not having a good IT day that day. I work in IT, doing programming. I like programming, but on that day, I was experiencing a lot of frustration with computers, basically. A little bit more interesting than that, definitely, certainly, is this. It's a sort of, looks urban, but also there is a vague figure on the left. And we have two or one figure on the right. So, like as you can see, I'm trying to get used to making them using sort of mottled brush strokes and then some hard line edges in some respect, but keeping it quite loose as well, basically. So it's almost like urban with some figures. I like this piece. This is one of my favourites of the stuff I've been doing. It has a religious type connotation. I like the pyramid, how it comes through. It almost seems to glow because it's the white light and the contrast of the black. There's this sort of black sun. Could almost have just realised that almost looks like a face as well. That's quite an interesting effect. Actually, I didn't notice that before. I just looked at it. So it almost looks like a human head if you look, with a sun in the middle. It's got a nice three-dimensionality in basically how it's got a nice three-dimensionality with the sun and also below. I'm going to try doing more like this. I might even try it tonight. I'm quite a good idea, I think, to tap into that a bit more. So yeah, I was saying about I started introducing a little bit of colour. Now, the obvious colour combination to do with black is red. It's quite an angry colour, but it's one of my favourites. Well, it's colour of passion. Well, it's culturally a lot of different things, but I think in this example it could be many different things. It looks a bit like a mask of this painting. I need to probably work on doing this style a bit more as well. You got sort of, yeah, I'm going to do some more red and blacks, I think. It looks like two masks maybe fighting, or one mask with one face. It's not very clear, but that's that. I've been experimenting with, like I said, Indian ink, so that's just some basic splattering experiment, nothing too special there, just trying to get into using the material, basically. So this is quite interesting because there's a few figures here that actually relate in terms of the work overall. So we've got the Black Monk. I spoke about this in some of my old videos, and he is this figure that has started emerging in recent work. I don't know what he represents, but I'll try and explore it. So he's got I think in a way he's sort of my shadow side. So the shadow side in Jungian psychology is essentially just all the opposite of what you actually are actualized in reality. So he looks sort of formal, business-like. He's got no eyes, so no soul. He's got this tie sort of rendered here. So I think this Black Monk on some level represents some shadow aspect of myself, because I'm quite chaotic and free and quite chaotic and free individual. Whereas this person, but then this guy looks sort of cool as well. I don't know, like he looks, I don't know, sort of aloof. But in terms of the technical side, the tie is quite nicely done. The black sort of works. I don't think I've ever worked it too much. Similarly again, but this is maybe more of a meditative monk, basically. Is in some sort of environment, possibly even like a futurist flat or something, it has that religious aspect as well. Again, this is a mysterious figure that keeps on emerging in my work now. Perhaps it represents some spiritual part of myself, I'm not sure, but I definitely have a lot more hair than him because he's a bald monk. Working directly from the unconscious. Looks like legs, woman, female figure, definitely, I think, though somewhat androgynous. The hair is, quickly just render like that. I quite like this one. I like the impression sort of feeling it has. It's like a dreamlike impression. I've not gone too overboard on the brush strokes. Pretty happy with that. This is a weird one. I did this one. This quick sketch I did when I just arrived here. And this is quite pornographic painting, actually, in a lot of ways. So there's a figure here. Of masculine, but with some almost like tit there. And then this looks like a woman basically bending over and he's filling her ass or vagina basically, so it's quite a sexually charged image. And then there's all this, again, this sort of almost mechanistic eye watching in. And then there's a third level there. So a lot of space going on in that, like dimensionality. There's I don't know how many dimensions, 4 maybe, if you consider time and space as a dimension, I suppose. And then we've got this window here. So I guess it breaks the fourth wall, that drawing. I do like exploring transgressions and sort of sexuality and sex in my paintings. So I'm going to continue to do that because it is interesting to dive into that. This guy isn't necessarily me. I don't know who he is. It's just, it could be, I don't know, it could be an aspect. Obviously it's an aspect of myself on some level. Everyone likes to feel a bit funny now and again. But yeah, that's that. A bit of a failure, this one, overworked, I think. I'm not sure, but I really not feeling it so much. It's a sort of a lamp with an eye. This, from what I remember, is actually from Russia as well. So this is returning back to something I used to do a lot more in the past. It has an outsider art feeling to it, maybe, but I don't subscribe to those labels anyway. It's like a body, but composed of different shapes. So I'm taking aspects of abstraction, mixing it with figurative imagery and body parts, basically, and just seeing how far I can take that. I've taken it quite far in this image. It's basically almost like a mutilated body, but still you can tell it's a body overall. Well, there's many different things you could see in that probably. On the first level, it is a body altogether. But then if you look at it in another way, it sort of has this perspective trick where it's sort of this black sort of shape here. There's basically two levels you can look at that from, basically. As to what it means, I have no idea. It's just an image. This is from Russia. This is actually just basically an interpretation of the character of my friend Matt Tudor, who is another artist based in London. So he's obviously an artist, so I've given him, I've just written that into the piece to say he's an artist. I said he's a devil, because everyone has a demonic aspect to the character. A priest, I think he has that aspect to his nature. There's a bit of a mask there, so there's like a certain... That could be interpreted as either an eye or as a tree trunk, so two levels of interpretation there. And I basically just decided to do. I do like studying my friends in that sense. I want to get to know their minds, and then I can create a true portrayal of them as a full individual, basically, as a full being. This is going to be quite long, by the way, so yeah. This is a piece from... I think this was just before I left London, 22 it is, 2022, TPG 2022. So this is a piece from basically a few months before I left London last time, and it's got that sort of futurist feeling with the urban landscape. You could probably look at this for hours and get something new of it, even every time I look at it. There's a lot of detail. There's also, if you look into it a bit closer, this is like a world within a world within a world within a world. So there's like weird dimensional, again, fourth dimension, time might be, I think, becoming more of a factor in my work, basically. So we've got this, it looks like a face there. I've utilised some Russian text, so that word doesn't mean anything. It's just pure random chaos. It's like... D-A-P-Z-E, basically. Doesn't really mean anything. It's not actually a word in Russian, and I've checked. But I just wanted to, utilise some text again. Eternal, it says there as well. So maybe in a sense it's a painting to deal, trying to explore the concept of time. P equals MP is a card problem in computer science, which I attempted to answer a while ago, but it was just sort of, I don't know, it's basically a problem in computer science. So I've just sort of snuck that in there as well. If you look, P equals N, and there's a P there. This was a drawing when I arrived here, where I am now, and basically it's an artistic rendering of Putin, basically. That's the sort of, who is also a figure that's emerged in some other paintings, subconsciously or otherwise. It's just the sort of idea of the pathetic nature of the tyrant, this sort of lonely king, and sort of refers back to mythology. Obviously got devil horns. It's potentially a bit too obvious, maybe given too much credit. More of a mediocrity than that, potentially. I don't know if we'll have a look at that one. I'll just skim over these because these are basically wood scenes from imagination I drew in Russia, in the flat actually, so I wasn't actually on location when I drew them. I quite like the rendering of the flowers. I like the overall expressive power. Obviously, it could do with colour. Well, as sort of studies for further works looking into the concept of woods and the energy flows of like nature itself, herself, I guess, really. Well, it doesn't have a gender, does it? But I always think of nature more of a feminine force, I guess. Well, I mean, that's irrelevant, actually. Just, you know, who knows what nature is? It's both, obviously, I guess. This is a nude from reference, so I was just trying to improve my nudes and sort of. I like this, the graphical quality. I actually did this also in a digital form too. This is from last year in Russia, so I just wanted to get back into doing live drawing, but I didn't have any live models to draw, so I just worked from a reference. Fairly refined, could be tidied up in places, but I mean, that is what it is. So I like the energy and dynamism around her. The actual body is fairly well rendered, just needs... but it could be better in places. The proportions on the arm, which is quite a central part of the composition, are slightly off, but not enough to ruin it probably. But yeah, that's that one. Another one from last year in Russia. So obviously dystopia was sort of present in my mind. This figure here almost was a self-insert, I feel, on some level. I don't know why. Every time I keep looking at it, I'm like, well, that sort of looks like me, the big, guy with big afro and glasses. This figure is mysterious, this sort of violent figure that's in the middle of the composition. Sort of references to religion, insert coin. It's a sort of cynical commentary on religion in the contemporary world. So nothing. It's probably a painting somewhere, drawing somewhere about nihilism. The heart is just weird and empty, and yeah, sort of interesting if disturbing image, but I like something in it, even though it's ugly. I think a bit of German expressionism maybe. Another one I did of Matt Tudor. This is from life, so this is actually drawn from him being in my presence. There was something like the British flag in the background, which it looks when I see a British flag, but it was actually referencing the background that was in place there. So just rendered his face, a little plant there. Don't know what else to say. That's from earlier this year. This is a picture which is partially based on a magic mushroom experience, a trip I had. So this is basically my perception of myself on this trip. So there I am. I'm almost like a baby or infantile in some way in this one, which is quite interesting. I look fairly peaceful. I don't look worried. But there's a degree of disintegration, of course. And there's the worms. And then there's all these weird symbols, which I've always just work from my subconscious, and I can get that stuff out there. So the language, sort of inventing a syntax of language, which can seem quite bonkers, I suppose, in some respects, but it is a thing I do, just using these symbols. It's more interesting the more close you get to it. I'll probably turn that image into something like a painting at some point when I've got time. This is a painting called Design for a Brutalist Man. Reference to architecture brutalism. It's obviously a humanoid figure. Quite strong portrait, I feel. Looks like it's got a mask on. Robotic in some levels. Post-human on some levels. A drawing I did not long after this, actually. So not long after I had this magic mushroom experience, I had a bit of a wobbly, to say the least. Ended up at a mate's house. Won't go into details, obviously. But this female profile emerged in my mind. She doesn't exactly resemble anybody I know. Well, maybe a bit, but maybe someone I was involved with for a little bit of time, actually. Not my main girlfriend from recently, but someone else. A little bit, but I don't know, and I'm not sure. She's still mysterious to me, whoever this woman is in the painting. I mean, it doesn't have to be my muse or anything. It could just be a friend or somebody I know, but she's definitely female, obviously. There's a boat that says escape. There's like hands here as well if you look closer. And it's sort of shimmering with that sort of like psychedelic, dark psychedelia feeling. She's got also a black and white stripy jumper on. That's just painting Shostakovich. I mentioned it before, he just watches over the studio. Quite a grim painting, also looks like a microscopic, looking in a microscopic world. It's quite a mutant painting. I've been doing these interactive fiction workshops recently, and the kid I've been doing, who I know from back in Russia, we've been doing these workshops where we basically try and draw and design characters. When we do it in a set time limit. So this is basically me doing a princess, again straight from imagination. There's no thought being put into it apart from the actual mark making, straight from the unconscious. So obviously I like red hair, that's definitely a thing for me. I do like a lass with red hair, definitely. She's got a crown on, so she's a princess. Love hearts with flower. Yeah. And obviously it's a little bit unfinished there, but we do it within a set time limit, so I've only got so much time. Brush strokes, technically I think it works alright. Eyes could do a little bit of improvement on her right, on my left. This to me looks, again, almost like eyes or space. It's basically a cosmos painting, it's a space painting, but it could be eyes or space. Possibly went a bit overboard on the black, but also do quite like it. Okay, so this is a bit, some of these are going to be a bit more possibly offensive. I'll just warn before I show the next one. This one has the words big, cunt, and doll piss, basically. Now I was obviously in a bad mood when I painted this, but I do like, if I'm in a bad mood, I like just really just letting it out that way. So obviously doll piss, and it does look a bit like a Russian doll on some level, so probably just getting some of that frustration out that way. Like, I'm not suggesting like anything to do with Russians as a people, just like basically, I don't know, doll piss. I mean, analyze away, I don't know what that means. That's it's very quickly executed. It's probably one of the rawest, stupidest pieces here, but I mean, you can use that. I can use that and then just make something more of that image or that idea. So the doll might be another one that emerges, basically. Okay, so this is a more recent one where I'm using colour again. This actually started out just with tits. That's God's honest truth. So that where the two suns are there, you can probably just see underneath as I basically started painting a pair of tits, and then just worked through the rest of it. This figure is quite interesting. It looks like devil. Also could be a head on a stick. The arms are going up, and there's quite a lot of sort of blending, sort of nature-like colours with a sort of framed red around it. So that's that. Finally, go on to the next, this final wall of work. This is quite interesting. It's like the one on the left. There's like a shadow extending out from but there's no figure that's actually creating the shadow. So it creates a bit of confusion in your mind, maybe when you look at it. There's a sort of perspective going towards the light. There's also a shadow on the side here. I'm quite happy with this image. It's got a certain mystery, pulsating mystery to it, which I like, definitely. And I'm pretty happy with that. I need to explore more of that sort of imagery, I think. Here we have a strange mutant, vaguely feminine form. It's a little bit overworked in places, but I like the fact that I was tapping into that, again, the sexuality, but also the sort of mutation, I guess, basically. There's a sort of tiny suggestion of a face there. Definitely Francis Bacon, seeing his exhibition, will have influenced that painting on some level as well. That is for sure. This is an odd one. So we have a figure here with glasses on. Not really, it looks more male than female, but could be any gender. We have a lot of action around here that's moving around. This one freaks me out a bit. I don't like looking at its face too much. The nose is odd, obviously. It's just it's quite a spooky painting. We've also got this thing coming out of its eyes. One of the more spooky, weird ones. A bit disturbing to me still. I don't know quite what this is about, but I like paintings like that. Self-portrait. That's a pencil sketch. A bit of Radiohead lyrics. Obviously, self-portraits, that's quite important, which I'll move on to the second one, self-portrait, which is more developed. But yeah, I was just feeling depressed, basically. Wasn't really sure of myself. Another self-portrait. Pensive. Brushstrokes are... I quite like the hair, the brushstrokes I've used there. Yeah. I talked about this one before, but yeah, it's like again, like the fourth dimension. Time, from the weird perspectives. And shadowy sort of figures, I guess. Like almost ghosts, basically, in the painting. This is from life, so this is actually a painting from out my window. You can't see now because it's night, but there's like a nice church across the way. A very nice view. So just rendered that basically. And I want to do that more, actually, of work from life itself, and then do some symbolic sort of interpretation on top of it, basically. So it's like a meta layer of life. And then finally this abstract, which is fairly interesting, with a lot of movement in the composition, a lot of energy, basically rotating around. Well, it has no point of centre, really. That's probably one of the best things about it, I think. Gives it a sense of movement and dynamism, basically. Obviously that was a very long video, but I mean, that will give anybody watching like a very good idea of what I'm exploring in my work, why I'm exploring it, and where maybe I can also reflect on this and think, what I want to do next, because I also need to work with all these images and symbols that are emerging in my artwork, and just figure out, just mix them all up. And they're always with you, these. I don't want to say they're characters. They are characters, really. These obviously a lot of these artworks are based on snapshots of people I know, on snapshots of my own experience, of something in the unexplainable middle zone, the sort of zen feeling when you're painting, where you're just like tapping into you don't even know what, which is the exciting place, really. And yeah, so I'll end this video here. It said quite a long one. I'm not going to do these every day, obviously. These are rarer videos where I'll be doing more in depth, longer analysis of a significant body of work over a period of time. Like this is basically a year and a half, essentially. I've got paintings downstairs, but I've already gone over those in other videos, so I won't go retread old ground. I just wanted to give a big picture of the prototypal painting, So that's that, and I'll say goodbye. Have a good one, and let me know what you think. Actually, obviously I'm interested in that as a painter. Constructive criticism always, and all right, in a bit.